throwing rocket chairs at Rocketbirds. Hard-boiled chicken developed by Ratloop. It's using the Fire engine, which is, I've never heard of this thing before. But you gotta love the gist of this game. It's $9.99 or wet stinky cashes. You could have picked it up a couple weeks ago for $2, and it's certainly worth the $2. It's €7.99, and all I need to do to sell this game to you is it is American chickens versus communist penguins. And zeppelins. I don't actually need to say anything more. You guys have gone out and already purchased this game. We're going to tell you if you're going to regret this purchase with our chair explanation. 1 chair means that it's shit. 2 chairs means it's good. 3 chairs means it's... Or 2 chairs means that it's meh. 3 chairs means that it's good. 4 chairs means shut up, take my money.
And quit playing with the lighter.
I will. And of course, we have our categories of doom, which I will subsequently light on fire with my lighter. Make with the working, shiny, and sounds, controls, and fun. All those categories are pretty self-explanatory. If you don't understand them, go back to like episode 50 or whatever, because that was when I was explaining what they actually meant. So, then Rocketbirds, hard-boiled chicken. Oh yeah, did I mention it's developed by Ratloop? Probably did. Rocketbirds.com, check that out. So then, did it make with the working?
Cluck, cluck, motherfuckers. Yes, it did. In pretty spectacular fashion. We tested it on our minimum system requirements, our Ubuntu 12.04 NVIDIA-powered system of business. Out of the box, one little issue with the controls, but not a big deal. I'll talk about the control sections. But the one thing that it gets dinged a chair for is my monitors timed out while playing it with the X-Clone control pad. They were just like, boom, sleep mode. And that caused me to get killed to death on more than one occasion. So, you gotta jiggle the gerbil, and my big, what is this, fucking Asus, what LED backlit takes fucking years to come back on. So I'm sitting there waiting, and I was like, oh, look, I'm dead. So definitely dinging in a chair for that, but outside of just launching, running, no issues, on the minimum systems, not 4 chairs, because I clicked the wrong fucking button, we're giving it 3. Jamin?
This review is going stellar right now. So
Yep.
This is already a fucking train wreck, so we can stop giving a shit. All right, so I tried this with Turbo Seizure controller. I tried this with my Hori controller here. It's very nice, has a proper D-pad and all. Didn't work with these controllers, so I got a ding at a chair for not working with very common in Xbox controllers. I'll get into why that is a little later on, but 3 chairs for me.
And on my end, I didn't really have any issues with the controllers that would affect gameplay to ding at a chair on makes with the working, but we'll get to that a bit later on. On my
What is the sorcery?
laptop.
We have problems, Pedro doesn't.
On my laptop with the 5650 HD using the open source Radeon drivers, and on my 10-year-old PC with an NVIDIA 7600 GS, it ran out of the box, no problems whatsoever. 4 chairs.
All right. So because apparently today we're in the Twilight Zone.
Good Lord, next we're going to let Danes vote.
Yeah. And up next we're going to watch a very funny comedy show by Dane Cook.
3 chairs.
3 chairs coming up next. Shiny and Sounds. Ben, give us the business.
Shiny and Sounds. Let's just kick over. Look at a little bit of the videos one is to do. Shiny and Sounds. Generic as it is, live music is best soundtrack, and this has it in spades. Not necessarily my favorite band, nor will I go out and purchase their records, but it's definitely pleasing to the ear pussies, and it's a bit of a treat. Really digging the art style. The animated cutscenes are actually worth watching for the story. But almost want to ding at a chair because the jump animations are a bit shit, but that's just me being hyper picky. And this is like one of the funny things. Near the beginning of the game, I didn't do a whole lot of research because we picked this up like 2 weeks ago when it was on sale.
Yeah, it was on sale for about $2.50.
Well before the Humble Bundle. And just for shits, then the Humble Bundle was like, oh, we probably need to review it. And I was walking, and there was like this tracked shadow from a headlight from a Jeep, and I was like, I thought it was a Unity game till I did that, and I was like, Unity couldn't do that. This isn't Unity. But definitely for the shiny and sounds, man, 4 cheers. I can't really find a legitimate flaw with it without being picky as balls. J-Man.
Yeah, like Ben, I actually really like the soundtrack. It's good ass kicking music. And as you're running around shooting people to death, that's the kind of music you want to listen to. So the art style, like I said, it's communist penguins versus American chickens. It's pretty fucking awesome. The animation sort of falls apart at times. It doesn't seem like the best quality. So I can't give it 4 chairs. It's not perfect, but definitely 3 chairs. This is a solid effort on Shiny and Sounds.
Yeah, as you guys mentioned, the soundtrack is awesome. I was going to give it 4 chairs until I actually spent an hour with the game looking at those goddamn janky animations. I'm sorry. It's 2014. There's so many 2D platformer games out there like Hank,
Mark of the Ninja, Guacamelee,
Mark of the
Dust,
Ninja, Guacamelee. All those games, those animations look sweet. They look fluid. They look good. This looks like arse. So it only gets 3 chairs.
So that's 3 chairs for Shiny and Sounds. I really gotta say though, those cutscenes are pretty fucking awesome.
They are.
Yeah.
Like I was playing this game with like some company over the other day, and we're watching the opening cinematic, and everyone's just like, "Oh my god, I have to buy this game right now." So, moving on to Control, then, did you feel like you were in Control?
With the controls, this is not where it starts falling apart, but you definitely find some spots in the armor to poke at it with your sword, and by sword I mean penis.
By penis I mean gun.
Penis gun. Gun penis, haha.
Gun penis is best penis.
When you first start...
Oh, welcome to Linux Zardoz cast.
Started out, exclude controller, I had the menu controls up, down, left, right, and I was like, sorting through the menus, and I was like, all right, resolution's fine, hit start. Went to move, and it was like, fuck you. And I'm like, okay. Back out, and I was like, oh, let me set the controllers. And it was set for keyboard and gerbil, and I was like, well, then how come the controller was working in the menus from the get-go? It doesn't seem like it really clicked for me. You don't do anything fast in this game either. When you gotta push something, you're on up to it, and you know what it's the X button on the exclude controller, which I'm just going to go put down before I drop it and do anything stupid with it. You got to wait for that button to appear before you can do it. You can't just run up to it like, boom, and try to do it very quickly. Not going to happen. That goes equally so for elevators. And there's fucking elevators everywhere in this game. You got to boom, then you come up. You can't just like, boom, hit it. And there's no... I fucking dare anyone to try to do a legitimate speed run on this game without boom, then wait, then do that. Because you're going to have to do that. And Cocaine Voltron help you if you get stuck in a crossfire, because if you got to make quick moves left and right, you're fucked.
Forget it.
You're just going to get, killed to death again. And this motherfucker, for whatever reason, really likes to roll. I felt myself rolling. I was like, all right, it's a faster way of travel, but like you're doing that crossfire stuff, trying to left and right, half the time you just end up rolling and getting more deaded. So, with the controls, I'm going to give it a meh, because I think they could definitely tighten them up quite a bit. J-Man.
So, as I was saying, basically all of Ben's points are entirely valid in this. But I have some additional gripes. Number one, I have no problems using this controller on any other game. I thought maybe there was a driver issue, so I spun up a Scapegoat, I spun up Trine, worked in both of those games perfectly fine. We even spun up some like random Unity game that had controller support.
That's what you were up to. All right.
Yeah, that's what was going on there. And yeah, like that controller didn't work. So I went and I tried Turbo Seizure controller because I love giving epileptic people fits. And that one didn't work. And so I'm like, what? So there's a problem with I don't know. So as a final resort, I have like an old white Xbox 360 controller that came with the Xbox 360 I bought millions of years ago. So plugged it in. Oh, lo and behold, it's working. I have another Xbox controller. Plug that in. Lo and behold, it's working. So third-party controllers don't seem to work with it. I think Ven's worked because it's actually an Xbox controller that fell off the assembly line, as it were. The controls are a bit sticky at times. I noticed that, and I do have to say it because I tried couch multiplayer with roommate. It's very clever. It has a really cool Lost Vikings mechanic where like you're both half-sized chickens and you can jump on top of one another and like fire in multiple directions. So that's pretty cool. But my God, talk about fucking crossfires. They have like guys with shields that beat you to death in like 2 hits, and they flank you, and there's nothing you can fucking do about it. They just murder you. So I'm gonna give this 2 chairs for control.
Yep. Sounds about right. Everything you guys just said. And one thing I noticed is that Ven had problems because the controller was not recognized, the game didn't set the controller as the default input method right from the get-go, but it did on my end. Go figure. So technically my PS2 DualShock worked out of the box. Unfortunately, there were some situations where it would fail to recognize the input from the right analog stick, namely those jetpack sequences that you have to aim where you want to fly. Wiggling this thing didn't work. I actually had to keep one hand on the controller, move one hand to the mouse in order to move the aim around.
That's how you know you're a elite gamer.
Doesn't fly, you know?
No pun intended.
And yeah, and kind of like Jordan said, movement here in this game is not an exact science. It's more of a suggestion. You tell the character to move. Sometimes it, what's his face will roll. Sometimes he will walk very slowly. So for me, controls, I'm sorry, it's a 2D platformer and the controls suck. 2 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 chairs with the controls. And finally, we have fun. Ben, did you have fun?
Did I have fun? We'll take another look at this video while I read off the notes. I've written, even with all the flaws in this mental little side-scroller, it kept me entertained. I still loathe the Rocket Pack levels, but wanting to learn more about the story, I forced and powered my way through that. That's a good thing, and that's genuinely the point of this. I kept coming back to this ridiculous little thing during the week because at the end of the day, take that shot. Good game design is best game design, and this has it. I mean, it has that thing, just like, fuck you, I'm going to completely sort this, and eventually I'm at like one of the Rocket Pack levels. It's like, that's enough of that. You know, it's going to be a while before I revisit it, but you know, up to that point, I enjoyed it. I liked the story, and there's some things, especially when you get the mind slugs and all that, it doesn't get fuck you hard, but it doesn't even give you a mini-map, which is great. You actually have to remember how to go back through all this shit and do all that, which I think is something that is missing in, you know, games are just too stupidly easy now. This actually makes you use your fucking brain organ for once, and even with its flaws, I'm going to say I had 4 chairs worth of folding fun out of this business. J-Man.
Yeah, like, a lot of my enjoyment from this game comes from the sheer absurdity of it. And just the awesome-ass cutscenes. And you really just want to see what happens next with these cutscenes. That is the only reason you soldier on in this game. It's like watching a movie. It really is. You know, I want to see the film adaptation of this starring Bryan Cranston as the chicken. But, yeah, no, and that Ivan Drago bird just cracks me up to no end. But yeah, the game is pretty fun. Like I said, like Vin said, the Rocket Pack levels are just go fuck yourself with the Rocket Pack levels. Eat those things. And you know what? Multiplayer is pretty fun. It's enjoyable to like sort of coordinate with your buddy and cause them to get killed by electrical gates and then beaten to death by penguins with truncheons. But yeah, no, the whole viewed as an entire package, this is a very entertaining game. And it's not perfect. It certainly has its flaws, but it is enjoyable, and that's why I give it the 3 chairs.
Well, that's why they call this section the subjective part of the review.
You're
because
subjective.
I guess Guacamelee has kind of spoiled me when it comes to these modern 2D platformer Metroidvania type games.
You're a foulist.
Guacamelee was a very, 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 very good Metroidvania game.
Just because he's Mexican, right? Uh-huh.
No, it
Look
was.
who's playing
The
favorites now,
animations were
Pedro.
fluid. The fighting was, I don't want to say meaty, but it was. And it was an awesome game. And I was hoping this would at least be, you know, up there with Shank, you know, but it isn't. The stealth mechanic, if we can even call it that, involves you leaning into a wall. There, the enemies can't see you anymore. Out in broad daylight, lights all over the place, enemies can't see you just because you're leaning into a wall. And I suppose the multiplayer aspect does save it from the score I had originally thought of giving it. And they could have even gotten a better score if they had kept the original name, Rocketbirds Cock of War. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
a much more
I'd
interesting
fucking
name.
buy the shit out of that game if this thing was called Cock of War.
Yep. So, yeah, for me, Rocketbirds Hardboiled Chicken gets 2 chairs for the fun.
All right, so that totals up to 3 chairs. And as we add all this nonsense together and average it, we get a final score of 2 whole chairs. So, gentlemen, final thoughts.
Well, not sure of what. This is part of, I believe, right now, the Humbly Weekly sale, which goes on for like a week and a half. So, in do that, even if you pay, you know, what is it, like normally 10 quid, right?
Yeah. It goes on sale fairly often on Steam, though.
I mean, definitely if you're in like to the multiplayer, but if you're just into, you know, what P-Man's talking about, P-Man was talking about Guacamelee is like a fucking beat 'em up. This requires strategy, ammo conservation, among other things. And the hiding mechanic, yeah, that's a bit shit. I rarely used it until it came down to when I had to use it in order to stay alive. That is one of those things. And there's been times when you're out of fucking ammo, you're just fucked. You just restart, which is another throwback to the old fuck you hard, which I enjoyed. I really did. If it's on sale, don't even think about it. Pick this thing up at like half price at 10 quid. If you like a cinematic platform puzzler, that's fun, and you like a quirky story, go for it, man. I can't say anything horrible about it, except for what we mentioned with the controls and all that. It's completely legit, yo.
Yeah, this is a pretty fun game. I'd come back to it. Certain if it's on sale for $2 like it was like last week or 2 weeks ago, definitely pick this up. Maybe not worth the full price, maybe worth it at 50% off, but you'll at least enjoy it for the cutscenes, and that's.
It was also already included with the Humble Indie Bundle 9, if I'm not mistaken. And now it's on the Humble Weekly sale too, so you've had plenty of chances to pick this up. Maybe it's your thing, maybe it's not. For me, as far as light arcadey Metroidvanias go, Guacamelee was a lot better.
Because
so
Mexican.
that about wraps this sucker up.